The Last Loyalty, Blondi, and the Final Hours of the Third Reich. In the suffocating depths of the Führer bunker, as the Red Army's artillery thundered overhead and the thousand-year Reich crumbled into rubble, one relationship remained unshaken by the chaos consuming Berlin. While generals betrayed, allies fled, and even his closest confidants questioned his judgment, Adolf Hitler found solace in the unwavering devotion of a golden-coated German shepherd named Blondi. What happened to this dog in those final hours would reveal the most chilling aspect of Hitler's character. Not his capacity for mass destruction, but his ability to destroy even what he claimed to love most. Blondi entered Hitler's life in 1941, a gift from Martin Bormann that would become far more significant than anyone could have imagined. In a world where Hitler trusted virtually no one, where paranoia governed every decision and betrayal lurked behind every smile, this German shepherd represented something revolutionary in the dictator's existence: unconditional loyalty without political ambition. Those who witnessed their relationship described it as unprecedented. Hitler, the man who could order the deaths of millions without flinching, would spend hours playing with Blondi in the gardens of Berchtesgaden. He taught her tricks, fed her by hand, and spoke to her in gentle tones that his human companions rarely heard. Secretary Traudl Junge observed that Hitler showed more genuine affection toward Blondi than toward any person in his inner circle. The dog became Hitler's constant companion during his final years. When he retreated to his mountain retreat, Blondi accompanied him. When he moved between his various headquarters, she traveled with him. As the war turned increasingly desperate and Hitler withdrew further from reality, Blondi remained his anchor to something resembling normal human emotion. But this bond was about to be tested in the most horrific way imaginable. By April 1945, the Führer bunker had become a tomb for the living. 50 feet beneath the Reich Chancellery, Hitler and his remaining followers existed in a surreal underground world where delusion battled reality for control of their minds. The bunker's concrete walls couldn't muffle the sounds of approaching doom: Soviet shells exploding closer each day, the rumble of tanks, the distant screams of Berlin's death throes. In this claustrophobic hell, Blondi provided Hitler with his last connection to innocence. While his human associates schemed, plotted escape routes, or descended into hysteria, the German shepherd simply existed as she always had: loyal, present, unconcerned with the political machinations that had brought them all to this underground purgatory. Hitler's daily routine, even in these final weeks, revolved partly around caring for Blondi. He would take her for brief walks in the bunker's narrow corridors, feed her scraps from his increasingly meager meals, and seek comfort in her presence when the reports from the front became too devastating to bear. Witnesses described seeing the Führer, his hands trembling from Parkinson's disease, gently stroking Blondi's fur while Berlin burned above them. But Hitler knew the end was approaching. Soviet forces were less than a mile away. The sound of Russian voices could be heard through the bunker's ventilation system, and in his twisted mind, a terrible plan was forming, one that would reveal the true nature of his love for the creature who had given him such comfort. On April 29, 1945, with the Red Army literally at his doorstep, Hitler made a decision that would forever define the relationship between dictator and dog. He had obtained cyanide capsules from SS physician Dr. Ludwig Stumpfegger, intending to use them for his own suicide. But Hitler, paranoid to the end, doubted their effectiveness. What if Heinrich Himmler, who had provided the poison, had given him fake capsules as part of some final betrayal? There was only one way to test them. Hitler summoned Dr. Stumpfegger and his personal physician, Dr. Werner Haase, to his private quarters. Blondi was brought in, tail wagging, expecting perhaps another of their gentle interactions. Instead, Hitler ordered his doctors to force open the dog's jaws. As Blondi struggled in confusion and fear, they crushed a cyanide capsule between her teeth. The poison worked with horrifying efficiency. Within seconds, Blondi convulsed violently, her body racked with the agony of the lethal toxin. Her golden fur became matted with foam and saliva as she fought desperately against death. Hitler watched intently, clinically observing the effects of the poison that would soon course through his own veins. Blondi died within minutes, her body finally still on the concrete floor of the bunker that had been her home for the past months. The dog who had given Hitler unconditional love had become his final test subject, sacrificed not in the name of ideology or war, but to satisfy the paranoid fears of a dying dictator. What makes this act particularly chilling is not just its cruelty, but what it revealed about Hitler's conception of love and loyalty. Here was a creature who had never wavered in her devotion, who had provided comfort in his darkest hours, who had asked nothing in return but his presence. And when faced with his own mortality, Hitler didn't hesitate to sacrifice her life to ease his own fears. The historical record shows that Hitler was visibly affected by Blondi's death. Several witnesses reported seeing him in an unusually emotional state afterward, more distraught than they had seen him even when receiving news of military disasters. But this emotion was not remorse. It was the grief of someone who had lost a valuable possession, not the anguish of someone who had committed an unforgivable betrayal. The next day, April 30th, 1945, Hitler and Eva Braun committed suicide in their private quarters. Eva took cyanide, the same poison that had killed Blondi just hours earlier. Hitler, now confident in the poison's effectiveness thanks to his test, combined the cyanide with a gunshot to his head. Their bodies were carried upstairs and burned in the Reich Chancellery garden, along with Blondi's remains. The dog who had lived in luxury, who had known only kindness from her master, was reduced to ashes alongside the man who had claimed to love her more than any human being. The story of Blondi's death serves as a perfect microcosm of Hitler's entire worldview. Just as he had convinced himself that his love for Germany justified the destruction of German cities and the deaths of German soldiers in hopeless battles, he convinced himself that his affection for Blondi justified using her as a test subject for his suicide method. This wasn't love as any normal person would understand it. This was possession masquerading as affection, control disguised as care. Hitler's relationship with Blondi paralleled his relationship with Germany itself. He claimed to love both more than life itself, yet was willing to destroy them both rather than face a world where he couldn't control them completely. The dog who had provided comfort to one of history's greatest monsters became, in her final moments, another victim of his narcissistic inability to conceive of others as anything more than extensions of his own will. Even in his final hours faced with the ultimate test of character, Hitler chose his own psychological comfort over the life of the creature who had shown him pure, uncalculated devotion. In the rubble of Berlin, among the millions of victims of Hitler's war, one German shepherd's death might seem insignificant. But Blondi's fate reveals something profound about the nature of evil. It corrupts not just the grand gestures of politics and war, but the most intimate moments of daily life. Even love, in the hands of a monster, becomes another instrument of destruction. The bunker fell silent. The Reich ended. And in that silence, the echo of a dog's final, confused whimper serves as a haunting reminder that evil's reach extends even to those who love unconditionally, trust completely, and ask for nothing in return but the chance to remain faithful until the very end.